Lecture 7, Buddhism and Politics. Some Buddhists take the position that Buddhism is above politics. Is Buddhism your excuse for sitting on the sidelines? Politics is about how we live together as human beings. No organization, movement, or religion can escape it. Gandhi, who also studied the Buddha's teachings, said those who think religion has nothing to do with politics understand neither religion nor politics. Our concern is how Buddhism relates to political activity in a manner consistent with its teachings. With violence everywhere on the uptake, it may be hard to imagine Buddhist teachings as politically useful or even applicable. History, however, tells of many political successes accomplished non-violently through moral persuasion and spiritual strength. Emancipation from colonization in India, the U.S. Civil Rights Movement, the Velvet Revolutions of Russia and Eastern Europe, and the end of apartheid in South Africa are all notable examples. His Holiness the Dalai Lama speaks of a new global politics based on taking responsibility for the happiness of all people. And Thich Nhat Hanh, who recently addressed members of the U.S. Congress, takes a strong stand for mindful politics. Electoral politics, fraught with partisanship and dissent, are as much an opportunity to cultivate wisdom and compassion as any other aspect of life in the West, maybe even more so, says James Shaheen, editor of Tricycle magazine. After all, how many of us can bring our practice into our political lives, deepening our values rather than abandoning them at the slightest provocation from the opposition? The practice of Buddhist teachings does not require us to abandon our interest in worldly affairs, nor to refrain from taking sides in order to effect a more just society. We should all take appropriate action. However, it should spring from mindfulness of what is really present and be in accordance with the Dhamma, so that these actions can profit ourselves and others. Deep seeing will always evoke a response. Mindfulness, as Thich Nhat Hanh explains, is an inward awareness of the actual present moment that inextricably leads to positive engagement. This heightened engagement, then, has the potential to change the world. One student asked, okay, I get it. Buddhists can act politically, but can a Buddhist approve of the policies of the Bush administration? Can a Buddhist support candidate John McCain? The policies of the Bush administration have presented a distinct challenge to Buddhists practicing their ability to generate equanimity and compassion. This has proved to be a dangerous administration, with a foreign policy that confuses justice with punishment, disagreement with treachery, and cultural differences with evil. The Bush government blatantly and willingly risks escalating and perpetuating a continuous cycle of global violence. Just after 9/11, anxious to do what he could to prevent a violent response from America, the Dalai Lama broke with a long tradition of not commenting on the internal affairs of other nations and wrote to Bush. "It may seem presumptuous on my part," said His Holiness, "but I personally believe we need to think seriously whether violent action is the right thing to do and in the greater interest of the nation and the people in the long run." His Holiness stressed to Bush how violence will only increase the cycle of violence. The consistent unskillfulness of the Bush administration makes it tempting to confuse evil and ignorance. Buddhism observes that people are not inherently evil, even if their behavior has that appearance. Like a blind man in a room full of deaf people, is how ex-U.S. Treasury Secretary Paul O'Neill describes his surprisingly disengaged Bush during cabinet meetings. The Bush warrior Sangha, Cheney, Rumsfeld, McCain, etc., have taken refuge in an old and outdated vision of the world, one hopelessly Cartesian, self-referential, completely lacking awareness of interconnection, cause and effect, and certainly the true meaning of compassion. But compassion isn't just for the innocent. It's especially needed for those who perpetuate harm. We need to wish Bush, Cheney, and all politicians who advocate violence wellness, and happiness. If they were content, they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. As Thupten Chodron says, people who harm others are miserable themselves. Longfellow reminded us we should find in each man's life sorrow and suffering enough to disarm all hostility. Bush deserves even our appreciation because he gives us a need to practice and thus to progress along the path. The Dalai Lama often speaks of the Chinese with gratitude, saying that they have given him the unavoidable opportunity to practice compassion and cultivate forgiveness and understanding. Zen Benedictine brother David Steindl Rast and Roshi Joan Halifax teach radical gratefulness, which posits that in every difficult or painful circumstance, there is an opportunity for gratitude. Adversity can show us how well we've mastered our minds and how far along the path we have progressed. Given the deaths of over 1 million Iraqi people and 4,000 American soldiers and easily 5 times as many soldiers injured, given the enablement of pollution, the trees and the animals hurried into extinction, can we even begin to calculate the negative karma that Bush and politicians like him are mounting? But if Buddha could forgive and ordain even Angulimala, whom the sutras say viciously killed thousands of innocent people with his own hands, then can George W. Bush be beyond our forgiveness and compassion? And didn't the great Tibetan yogi Milarepa practice black magic and kill people before he turned his mind so magnificently to the Dharma? Milarepa discovered the greatest black magic was in bringing peace right into the heart and the heat of struggle. The most famous words of the Buddha remain: hatred can never be put to an end. Alone can love do this. This is the unalterable law. George W. Bush is unfortunately no Angulimala or Milarepa, who were able to overcome and awaken to the unskillfulness of their actions and repent the loss of life that they caused. In fact, Bush and his chosen successor may be the closest we can come to anti-Buddhas, global poster boys for profound ignorance. We can use them in our visualizations. We can breathe in their confusion and breathe out to them clarity. We can also get out on the campaign trail for candidates who more closely represent the first precept: do no harm. Sit and breathe, contemplating this, and see if you feel called to volunteer on voter registration drives. Asked how those in the Dharma should respond to times like these and how they should live their lives in a world where evil runs like an open sewer, the great Tibetan master Thrangu Rinpoche said, "You must counter the negative energy with as much positive thought and action as you possibly can muster. You must unceasingly sustain bodhisattva action." Let's visualize we are bearing witness to a panoply of devas and gods, the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, and the countless rows of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout space and time, sitting in the clouds and celebrating Bush's retirement from the Oval Office and his safe return to Crawford, Texas, perhaps accompanied by Cheney and McCain. And yes, I am visualizing these devas and bodhisattvas around the world, rooting enthusiastically for Barack Obama to win the U.S. presidency. Is this too political to be Buddhist? Thank you.